1812 saw a resumed operation of closed Masonic lodges. They appeared in Lithuania in 1776, and their activities were cancelled in 1789. Masonic lodges were founded in Vilnius, Raseiniai, and Ukmergė. In 1818, Lithuania had about 700 Masons. Different Lithuanian lodges which maintained links with higher-ranking lodges in different countries, at least within their field of activity, included substantial numbers of university professors, aristocrats, intellectuals, and even hierarchs of the Catholic Church and Russian government officials. The order in lodges was hierarchical, with several degrees of ordination or classification. It was based on a mystic ritual and doctrine. Masons viewed the reality of their time as the kingdom of evil. They raised the ideals of humanity and brotherhood and attempted to direct public opinion towards intolerance to autocracy and serfdom. Through their members, Masons tried to influence government decisions. The Vilnius Lodge, Gorlievai Litvin, or Earnest Lithuanian, was well known for being the largest of its kind. In 1817, Vilnius intellectuals founded the Shubravtsov, or Scoundrels, Society, which was similar to a Masonic lodge, yet it didn't use its mystique and rituals. The so-called scoundrels acted more openly and published their satirical newspaper, Vedomości Brukowe, Pavement News. It criticized the out-of-date customs, social prejudices and vices such as alcoholism, inordinate suppression of subordinates, self-abasement to grandees, and waste of property. It also condemned landlords' cruel treatment of peasants. According to some records, even the Tsar used to read this newspaper. Scoundrels did not openly declare political goals, but practically they supported the plan of Adam Czartoryski.
Masonų ir nenaudėlių veikiami 1817 metų pabaigoje slaptą filomatų arba mokslo mylėtojų draugiją įkūrė ir universiteto studentai.
Under the influence of Masons and scoundrels, university students established another secret society for philomaths, or science lovers, in late 1817. It included 21 members. The society's leaders were Tomasz Zan, Józef Zazowski, and Adam Mickiewicz, who afterwards became a famous poet. The philomaths founded several legal or semi-legal broader-scale student organizations and tried to run them. The most famous organization created by the philomaths was the Philaret, or the Moral Society, with 176 members who knew hardly anything about the Philomath Society. At first the philomaths were content with self-education. Eventually they started preparing, from a moral and ideological point of view, for a political struggle with autocracy for the freedom of the homeland, Poland and Lithuania. The philomaths' views, concealed under the poetic robe, were reflected in the Ode to Youth by Mickiewicz, which became the students' and pupils' anthem of the day. The impact of Vilnius societies caused the emergence of secret student organizations in the periphery, such as Kražiai, Kėdainiai and elsewhere, primarily where university graduates, philomaths and philarets used to teach. In 1822, according to the Tsar's ordinance, the activities of closed-type societies, meaning also Masonic and similar organizations, was banned in the entire Russian Empire. As early as a year later, the government tracked the activity of secret youth societies in Vilnius and quite easily unmasked most of their members. 108 persons were incriminated, of whom 20 were exiled to the depths of the Russian Empire following judicial proceedings. The exiles included Zan and Mickiewicz. The police also overwhelmed student organizations. Their members were punished even more strictly than the initiators and organizers of the entire youth movement. The martial court sent the active members of student societies to quartering, and it was only later that those sentences were replaced with servitude or service as a private soldier in the army. The Vilnius youth case at that time was one of the largest political processes relating to European students. In 1836, student Franciszek Savić, coming from the Uniate clergyman's family in Pinsk County, organized a secret society, later called Democratic Society. It had about 60 members, mostly university students and senior school students. Its statutes underlined the importance of charity, moral improvement, the fight against lawlessness, and equality and freedom for all people. In 1837, the society built relationships with Szymon Konarski, an emissary of the emigrant organization Młoda Polska, Young Poland, a nobleman from Alytus and participant in the 1831 revolt, whose aim was to illegally mobilize forces for a new revolt. However, in 1838, Konarski was arrested and at the decision of the military court publicly shot on the outskirts of Vilnius in early 1839. Another case of Vilnius students accused of anti-state action was judged in 1839. Probably in order to intimidate the public and at the same time to demonstrate the ruler's humanity, the court subjected many accused persons to the death sentence, which the Tsar then replaced with military service as private soldiers.
Penktojo dešimtmečio viduryje dėl Europoje bręstančios revoliucijos, kurį Vidurio Europos tautų istorijoje vadiname tautų pavasario vardu, poveikio, Lietuvoje vėl atsinaujino
In the mid-40s, owing to the impact of Europe's maturing revolution, the so-called Spring of Nations in the history of Central and European states, Lithuania saw repeated revival of underground political activity. Incidentally, the Russian police did not allow it to gain ground. In 1846, the circle led by Dr. Arvid Raniger, then in the process of preparing a new revolt, was liquidated in Vilnius. The Brotherhood Union of Lithuanian Youth, founded in the same year and headed by private Vilnius teachers, brothers Franček and Alexander Danilevsky, survived somewhat longer. The organization united mostly the gentry, private teachers, lower-level servants and senior students. It aimed to organize a revolt, which was planned to start on the 4th of April, 1849. However, in late March of the same year, the government arrested the leaders and many members of the organization. It had been probably spied on by agents for quite a long time. About 200 people were prosecuted. In 1855, permission was given to establish a provincial archaeological board and its Museum of Antiques in Vilnius with a 3-year probation period. A wealthy landowner, archaeologist and collector, Justas Tiškevič, became board chairman. Its influential actors were Michael Balinsky and Adam Kirkor. Being semi-public, the board became a universal society for culture and science, which started to mobilize the land's intellectuals. It carried out research not only on history and related sciences, but also statistics, natural history, and economy. The assumption was that the board could develop a framework for the restoration of Vilnius University, moreover that it operated on the premises of the former university. The tense situation in the land forced the Russian government to procrastinate on the official authorization to reorganize Vilnius Archaeological Board into a Universal Scientific Society, even though in principle consent to such reorganization had been already obtained. However, the statutes of the Scientific Society, drafted in the late 50s, although considered by different government authorities for several years, were never approved. After the 1863 revolt, the Archaeological Board was dissolved, and most values of the land's history and culture from the Museum of Antiques, mainly accumulated from private persons, found themselves in different Russian repositories. In 1882, the Press of Lithuania Minor published an article by German scientist and poet, protector and promoter of the ethnic individuality of small nations, Georg Sauerwein, calling on Lithuanians to establish the Lithuanian Scientific Society to fight Germanization. The attribute scientific then served as camouflage for the Cultural and Educational Society. Since 1879, Tilsit already had a scientific society for Lithuanian literature, which united researchers of the Lithuanian language and ethnic culture from different countries, mainly Germany and Russia. The period between 1906 and 1914 saw the founding of separate Lithuanian scientific and artistic societies, which were involved in intensive activity and organized professional, or at least professional-looking, scientific and artistic creative activities within the framework of the National Movement Program on a national level. As of 1907, the Lithuanian Scientific Society, chaired by Jonas Basanavičius, operated in Vilnius. It organized research on Lithuanian history and archaeology, geography and nature, economics and statistics, also the Lithuanian language and folk art. It published the periodical Lietuvių tauta, the Lithuanian nation. It accumulated the Lithuanian philological library as well as archival and museum values, and maintained efficient relations with many Russian and foreign science institutions and scholars. It also prepared Lithuanian textbooks for schools. In 1907, the Lithuanian Art Society started operation with about 30 professional artists and architects. It used to hold art exhibitions annually. One of the founders and actors of the society was the famous composer and genial artist Mikalojus Konstantinas Čiurlionis, whose creation served as a new phenomenon not only for Lithuania but also for global art.